Hey, what's up? My name is Kevin Kanjan. Normally I don't show my face on this channel, but today I'm going to. Got a little tutorial on how to fix a speaker on a 318 Ti. So last year I bought a BMW 318 Ti. It's a 1998. It's a super old car, but I've always really liked this car. I thought it was a weird little cool car. It's an interesting hatchback. It's one of the only hatchbacks BMW ever sold here. And I've had an alert up for a few years, and one finally hit that was in great condition. It looked really good. Even after shipping it on a car carrier, it was way cheaper than a lot of very crappy ones. It's largely in perfect condition. A bunch of stuff that deteriorates over time is deteriorated, rubber bushings, and as it turns out, the speakers in the back. They're very weird speakers in the rear. This thing has 10 speakers, which is pretty cool for a car this old and this inexpensive. It's got two big, 5¼ speakers in the kick panels in the front, two 4-inch speakers, two tweeters in the front, and then in the back, there are two tweeters, and then finally, the ones that I need to replace, two 4-inch speakers below those, and they're weird. They've got a really strange enclosure around them, and not too many people seem to have figured out how to deal with them when they go bad, so I'm gonna put this back out there into the internet. I hit up the usual suspects when I realized that they were bad. I went to Crutchfield, which did not have what I was looking for at all. I hit up FCP Euro, which is the one I usually order parts from, and ECS Tuning and eBay, and they were not cheap. They had brand new ones, but they were very expensive. The eBay ones were actually more expensive. And I have no idea if these are new parts or if they've been sitting around just as long as mine. So maybe they're also in bad condition or they only got a year left. I don't know. I pulled them out of the car, which was pretty easy. You just put the seats down, you pull the sides of the seats down, you just kind of pull them toward the front of the car. They pull out really easily. It's just some clips. It's really typical car interior clips. Then you really carefully pull the carpet in the trunk off of a little post and then just kind of pull it down from the area where the speakers are. Then you got 4 screws that release the speaker, and you've got to make sure that you disconnect the speakers there as well. Both speakers, the tweeter and the speaker, are both connected on this thing. You're going to need to disconnect both of them, and you're going to need to disconnect the clips for the tweeter. There's a little nub, and you're going to see it when I show you how to actually disconnect the rest of this thing. The one for the tweeter, for whatever reason, was way easier to disconnect than the other, which is great because you have to do that one to get it out of the car. So I took a look at this thing, and it looks like it twists off. You'll see what I'm talking about here, but it was stuck. So I hit up the forums. There actually happened to be a tutorial, with the car this old, when you're reading up the forums, it's like ancient scrolls at this point, So I'm deep in the 318ti.org forums, which has 0 active users at this point. And there's a whole tutorial on this. There's a tutorial on actually swapping these things out with aftermarket ones. So you've really got 4 options. You can buy replacements, brand new ones. You can buy used ones. Then you can hack it up and replace it with other speakers, which I really didn't want to do. You can buy mounts. You can buy adapters that let you mount newer speakers in there, which I also didn't want to do. But I figured that was probably the best option. So I bought some adapters and I bought some speakers, and I didn't really want to do it because I was concerned that there might be some weird vibration or something, but doing that was cheaper than buying, I could buy both speakers for the cost of one brand new BMW speaker. But still, I didn't want to do that. I'm trying to keep this thing as OEM as I possibly can anyway. Got them just in case, but then I started seeing videos of people fixing speakers on YouTube, and there are a couple people that sell kits. So I thought, what the hell, this is a $20, $30 kit with everything included. Why don't I give it a shot? These speakers are already shot anyway. Maybe I'll put the new ones in anyway if the repaired ones aren't good enough, and maybe I'll sell the repaired ones and somebody else could do something with them. I don't know, whatever. I ordered both. So I get the speakers out. It's the speaker in the housing. You can see it here. And I press on the speaker a little bit and it sounds horrible. I hit up BAV Auto, which is an audio company that mostly sells BMW stuff. They were really helpful, but they're we don't have what you're looking for and you need original. There's no aftermarket for this. Fine. I hit up Simply Speakers and they tell me they don't have a repair kit that's exactly the right one for my car, but they have one that I can probably trim to fit. So I'm like, all right, you know, I'm gonna get the thing and then I'm gonna ruin it. I'm not gonna be able to return these but I decided to do it anyway. So I go back to that forum post and I find this warning that the guy's like, hey, you can do this, but you're gonna just need to destroy the mount anyway, which is frustrating because I don't want to destroy the thing. I want it to be good. But it's really obvious that you can twist this thing out, but his warning here, hold up, let me see exactly what he said. He said, you pretty much have no chance of rotating the speaker. So challenge accepted. I had just gotten a heat gun recently and figured, what the heck, let's give this thing a shot. So before I get into twisting it off, I start taking off the little connector clip. It's on there really good. It's glued in there real nicely. Way too much glue. So I heat it up a little bit and you can see there's a little tab. I'm pushing it to the side with the screwdriver and then pushing it back toward the wiring side to slide it off. You have to do that same thing for the tweeter one, but the tweeter one, there was no glue on mine. I just pressed the tab and pulled it out. I don't know why one is glued like it has to survive the apocalypse and one of them has nothing, but that was the case with mine. If you get under there and the tweeter one won't come out before you get the mount out, you might be in trouble. So I get that thing off and then I heat up the edges of this thing, and one of these speakers had a little bit of glue and one of them was absolutely covered. So all around the edge, you see it's extra thick there. I heated it up a little bit. Some of it I could scrape off, some of it I couldn't. I didn't want to use too much heat, so I ended up doing a lot with the screwdriver. Part of it is just kind of jamming it in here, you see that, and then twisting it a tiny bit, enough for it to kind of crack free. Some of it on the edges where the actual tabs are, I had to get a lot of it out. But eventually, I was able to heat it up, give it a nice twist, and it came right out. There we go. All right. After that, I started tearing off the edge. It turns out most of the time what goes bad on these is actually the edge, the foam guard or the foam edge that kind of keeps it within the acceptable range of like moving in and out. So I start taking that thing off. I used the Simply Speakers guide for that, but I didn't do as much with like alcohol as much as I did heat. There's a reason not to do that. You will see why. But I would heat it up and I would scrape it with the screwdriver. According to them, it's not as important that you get all the adhesive off. It's important that you get the foam off. You're gonna replace the foam and you're gonna add adhesive. And your adhesive will stick to adhesive, which is already sticking to the plastic pretty good. But if there's foam in between, especially if it's that old decrepit foam, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna rip, you're gonna be in the same situation. So I get all that stuff off. You're gonna have to trim it for this because it is a little bit too big. You can see how much I trimmed off here. Only trim a little bit off at a time. You can always trim more. You cannot untrim. If you leave a little gap, it's gonna sound bad. I use the first glue that they give you that's in this metal tube. They say to do the inner circle first, glue it, let it sit, and then do the outer one. I did that with one of the speakers. With this one, I did them both at the same time. I would say just stick with what they did, but it worked out fine for this one. I pressed it down. I used a little plastic tool. I used a screwdriver to just press. I did this for a long time. I did this for like 10 or 15 minutes as it was starting to dry. It takes some time to dry, so you've got plenty of time here, but keep going. Don't give up early because once it sets, you really don't want to have to go back. Now, I said something about the heat gun not being a great idea. You can tell. I didn't see this happening at the time, but now that I filmed the whole thing, I could see the center cone shrinking, which is so sad to watch happening here. The speaker still sounds really good. I don't know if it was that big of a deal, but you could see what I noticed right here. Like, wait a minute, didn't this used to be like a cone shape or like a mound or something like that? That cone was supposed to be like up. I don't know what I did to it. Bummer. After you get done with all of that, there is another compound that they give you that it doesn't come with the kit, but you can add it on for a few bucks. It's more expensive, it seems like, if you get this kit on Amazon and add it than if you get it from them and add it. I double check. But this one is sort of like a more permanent sealer. This one is like a reinforcement. So I put it on the center rim and the outer rim and then just paint it with one of the paintbrushes that they give you. And once it soaks in and dries, it'll be clear. It just kind of gives it a nice little shiny look and gives it a little bit of extra protection. So take that, forum guy. What was forum guy's name? E30 Fiend. Take that. Wow, published in 2005, so like 17 years ago. Anyway, seriously though, E30 Fiend, thanks if you are still posting.